Welcome everyone, my name is Natalia Żaba and I have pleasure to host my dear guests, experts and people interested and dedicated to development of human resources and employment issues in the region. This time we gathered in Skopje and clockwise I have the pleasure to introduce you following speakers. First, Adriana Tasewska, employed at A2 Duty Free in Macedonia and human resources expert. Mr. Jovan Stalewski from CEFE Macedonia. Mr. Zlatko Stalewski from representing today here UC Platform Macedonia, a regional platform which is developing connections between players who want to develop what?
Social innovations and youth unemployment.
And last but not least, Eriona Rusi from Tirana, journalist and TV presenter. Welcome all. And I would like to start this debate, or maybe brainstorming more, let's call it like this, with one thing. Everyone, despite different misunderstanding in the region, we often see that people still can find common problems which can agree upon. And this is, for example, corruption. Like everyone agrees we need to fight corruption, and everyone agrees in the region that we need to fight unemployment and we need to support middle and small businesses in order to find this unemployment. So if we all agree that this is one of the most important issues currently the region, Western Balkan region is facing, I would like to ask you, what is then wrong going that everything is developing so slowly? Who would like to start? Would you agree with that at all?
Agree. I would agree that what we have in common, it's not just the problems. I would say we have rakia maybe, or similar drinks as rakia, which can get us for long hours than solving some problems. Zimnica, Ivar, things like that as well, maybe, the food. We all love sharing meals, for example. But unemployment, let's say, just not for our region, it's an issue in most of the countries. Majority of the countries are facing it. The bigger challenge is that we used to be together. We used to pretty much be very entwined in whatever we did. So now all these small bits of pieces of land had to say, oh, from now on we're independent, and everyone took off in separate ways. Well, exactly, we should have stayed together, even despite the government policies the government was different, we were independent countries, we should have stayed with some aspects together, definitely. I would say, even I have a really good example from our very recent past, would say West Germany and East Germany. It was it's really researched in depth, and there is a good story in one of my favorite books. It's called How States Develop Their Human Capital in Europe, and his name is Culpeper, Culpeper, very funky name. 2003. When he published this book, it was welcomed pretty much by professionals, both politicians as well, because he gave an example, human capital as well, how it was developed in Western Germany, and how it was the same policy used in Eastern Germany, and it didn't work. After 10 years though, still Eastern Germany made it. They really did root the seeds, but how did they do it? It was through private companies. Private companies decided that we don't need government policy. They didn't trust the government that much. It was a long period of authority ruling and centralized management and everything. So they decided they're going to make associations, and they had this idea how to flourish, for example, and they this, let's say people are like bees. They go where the flowers are. So if we manage to make a field for them where they will come and they will make the preferences, which color they want or everything, they will come and drink their nectars, they will fly away, which is also should be acceptable for the companies. They will fly away and they're gonna seed the pollen somewhere else.
So we are talking about encouraging private sector now.
It's my sector, so I'm coming most of my career life. I've been with private companies. So that's the aspect. My personal perspective is always that no matter what the government will enforce as a rule or it won't enforce as a rule, companies, they can have their own paths and they are the ones.
But governments in the region aren't the only one who actually have in their agenda to dealing with the unemployment, youth unemployment and business sector development. Here we have Mr. Talevsky. You are actually engaged in the regional huge project which aims to develop business sector and help make unemployment like less a problem than it is now, right? How does it look like on your side?
Well, a regional platform for social innovations in youth employment. That's our abbreviation is UC, which involves 6 countries from Western Balkans plus Turkey. It's a regional initiative funded by European funds. It's a 3rd year of implementation, and the main idea is to provide space where civil society organization will play a leading role in communicating also with private sector, but also on the governmental level, and try to have this unified approach in tackling the problem of youth unemployment, which is common to all countries involved.
So how does it look like in practice? I'm 18 years old, I want a job. Can I come to you and say, give me a job?
Well, well, it's not that easy, but one of the key points that we want to advocate is to decentralize and deinstitutionalize the services which are provided for young people which are unemployed. So not to be, for example, not to design or create the active labor market measures only on the central level without asking the people what they want. And also we are advocating for better visibility and promotion of these measures because they're designed for young people and young people don't know about them.
So what are the measures they don't know about?
For example, there are pretty good startup loans to start your own companies that you can use without any interest, for example. But somehow this information must be communicated with the target group. And we all say that youth are unemployed, but youth, we cannot see the youth as a whole because it's very different if we are talking about youth which is coming from urban areas, youth coming from rural areas, youth with university education, or it's also different if unemployed youth have experienced long-term unemployment, which practically creates really hard barriers for them to enter the labor market. Or there is also a category of youth which are not in education or not in training, and every segment of this youth have different needs and requires different approach in order to be able to activate them and to be user of these active measures because they are designed for them. And in the recent weeks we organized mini structured dialogue for these active employment measures in order to see and to hear the youth, the voice of the youth. Because on paper everything is perfect, but implementation is what is lacking. So we are monitoring that process, trying to involve all stakeholders, trying to hear their voice and to design measures that will work and that will have effects in the ground.
So what are those voices? What is going on the ground?
Well, one thing is that came out of this dialogue is that, for example, civil society organizations can also be a job provider for youth. So they can be created jobs in the non-governmental organizations. So they can absorb some of the unemployed youth that want to be active in the civil society sector. So not every young people to seek, let's say, comfortable employment in the public administration, because most of them, their dream job is in the public sector. So this, let's say, transformation of these measures is to involve actively CSOs that can create even thousands of jobs on the national level. Another point is that youth unemployed, which are using active measure of startup loans, need a mentor support throughout the whole process, not only to receive the grant, but also to have a tracking system, what is happening with their business plan, what is happening with the enterprise that it is formed, and how to develop and how to track, how to provide mentor support in the following months, in the following years. Because it's not only to have a great business idea, but this business should be sustainable in the long run. So these are the recommendations that we want to advocate in order to provide some more efficient implementation of these active measures and to receive more visible results. And that the most visible result is to reduce the youth unemployment rate in the region.
As we are talking now about the business sector, I would like to direct to you, Mr. Salewski. I'm very interested in this idea of developing medium and small businesses. Is it really that easy for a young person just to come, even if they have like professional support? They write a great project, they win the money to start it. Is it really that easy to just, put the guy into the machine and start working on that and then producing or, providing services? Like, does it really work? Is it a real hope for young unemployed people?
Interesting question. If it's easy, nothing is easy, right? For everything that we want to achieve, we need to strive, right? We need to make some hard work. But what the young people and also what the business sector needs and everyone needs are the competences. So if I'm competent to do something, it will be easier my life, or I will achieve easier my goal, let's say. So I will also, let's say, add to what Zlatko was saying, that there are many, let's say, as a support measures for young entrepreneurs or generally for entrepreneurs. But what I see from my experience, what is lacking are competences and more strategic planning. For example, yes, we are starting them as a companies with grants or loans or whatever, but they're achieving some level or achieving some development, let's say, from where they need to go in maybe bigger company, maybe employ more people, or maybe let's say the owner of the capital needs to stay the owner of the capital or strategic thinker and needs to have more managers, let's say, right? Or more employers. So that's what is lacking in those measures that Zlatko was mentioning. Because all the agencies that are giving those grants, they have their systems and their measurements, how to monitor them, how to mentor them, or how to see what are the results. But that transformation after 2-3 years, when it's not anymore a startup, it's already, let's say, a company, an old company, let's say, they need more competences. So here in this level, let's say, CEFE Macedonia as organization is entering in that layer of the ecosystem, that we are providing that kind of training for competences. CEFE, that is meaning competency-based economies, formation of enterprise. So the main philosophy is that first we build the entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur, if it is competent, right, it will make sustainable company, and that company will bring added value to one sustainable economy.
Any success stories so far?
Success story already 30 years. Yeah. So CFS methodology, it's more than 30 years in the world, in the global level, not only in Macedonia. And all the, let's say, all the evaluations and all the measurements that were made, they were made from the German government because, let's say, the German government is the main funder of the CEF methodology. All estimations and monitoring was saying that 80% to 90% of all people that are coming on those trainings, which are experiential trainings, they are even completely satisfied, right? And they are asking for more. And 95% until 100%, they are recommending those kind of trainings to their either peers, either colleagues, either relatives.
So how many people? What is the
on
number?
a global level, until it's measured today, more than 20 million people are trained with that methodology.
But you, in particular in your organization?
In CEF Macedonia, yeah. From when we have the measure of the numbers from 2008, when it's from the company, like 7,500 people are trained. And the last year, more than 150 people either get employed or either made a self-employment. Yeah. So, which is a great number. But I'm saying that CEF Macedonia is let's organization of trainers.
Yes.
Right? Trainers, yeah. So they're not only in the organization, right? We are seated in different or hired in different organizations or institutions or in private sector as well. So that's why sometimes it's hard to measure all that, let's say. But we are working in each field. Yeah. For example, now we're gonna work in Kosovo from next month on youth employability and building competences for employment in North Kosovo. Another example was lately we were working also in Philippines, in Jamaica, Chile, Germany and Macedonia on a global project where we trained more than 300 people, and we estimate that result after 1 year, half of them will open a companies.
Why are you mixing people from different parts of the world?
Why?
What is the
That's
idea
very
of...
interesting question, and I like this topic of the debate. Why? Because we all learn from different experiences, right? And
What Macedonia has in common with Jamaica?
What is it have in common?
Except the rakia, maybe.
The same sun and the same moon. When we saw the differences, they're big, right? But the main that we all share is what? We all want to have good education. We all want to have a good life, right? We all want either to have families or have a good time with our people. And now in the systems that we are working, to have a job or to have your own business, it's the way to get you to your good life, let's say. So what we have in common, that motivation, but what we had in difference, we saw that the definition for success is also, let's say, different. The institutional development is very different. The way how they're perceiving on the formal education and non-formal education is also totally different. But still, we are seeing that how we are approaching to business problems, let's say, because CFS methodology is focusing on experiential learning, but how? We are not preaching and we are not teaching, but we are giving a real business situation.
So what Jamaica gives to Macedonia, for example, what exactly? Why do you mix those two?
We mixed those two in order to learn from the experiences and to make a network of trainers, to build capacities, let's say. So we've learned that, as we said, that as much the training is quality and build competences, even for the entrepreneurs, someone asks for certificates. You understand?
Yes.
Also, we learned and we saw that also there, all those PhDs, master, everything. It's starting to have not so recognition, let's say, but the market, the economy is requiring for competent people. People that will have idea and will create something out of those, let's say, informations or connections, will create something concrete. Yes. Yeah, so we saw that everywhere in the world, now it's going on entrepreneurship, like in the employees in the companies to be more entrepreneurial skilled, or entrepreneurship that you make your own initiative and you make your own project or company or whatever. So we learned that from all those global.
Ariana Rusi, you deal with different issues and you have been dealing with different, also social issues within your long journalistic career. I would like to hear your opinion on the importance of regional cooperation in this topic. Is it important at all? I mean, all the countries here are different. They have different ways of solving problems. They have different categories of people that need to deal with. The populations are also, they differ, really. Is it important that Serbia and Albania and Kosovo cooperate on the problem of youth unemployment? What do you think?
I think the answer is so obvious in the meaning that it is very, very important. We might be different in many things, but I think we have common goals, let's say, or common objectives. As yes, he said before, everybody wants a better life, high incomes, good families, I mean, stability, etc. So I think wherever you are in Belgrade or in Macedonia, in Skopje or in Tirana or in Pristina, the goals are the same. And the thing is, from my experience, I've been discussing a lot with business people, entrepreneurs, and people also who try to produce in the country, in Albania, and export this production. And as far as I've seen, there are a lot of burdens within the region yet. For example, many of these people who produce, we mostly export, for example, shoes and some other materials. They say it's better for them and much easier for them to export in EU countries rather than in the region. So I mean, now it's been 10 years, more than 10 years that with the CEFTA agreement, right? And there is a real analysis, 10 years of CEFTA agreement, and if you see the numbers, I mean, there is a slight improvement, but it's so small in 10 years. I don't know, at least for Albania, it's very small. That means that cooperation and trade within the region is still very far, very behind. And when I see, for example, collaboration with the Albanian companies or their exports in Italy, for example, which is our main trade partner. Why, for example, my question as a journalist has been always, how is possible that it's much easier for us in Italy rather than in Kosovo, Macedonia? We are bordering countries and it should be much easier even with for costs. So, yes, but it seems there are so many burdens, so many barriers that I think governments should take a look, especially with taxes. And agreements we have with each other about these products. If those taxes and the agreements would be much easier for not only for businesses but also for people. We discussed this since today. I came here and I paid an insurance of 40 euros. I came here just for 1 day and I have to go back. That is an insurance of 40 euros. If I was a businesswoman, I would make a calculation and say, no, 40 euros for a meeting in Skopje, that should be worth millions of euros. The agreement I'm reaching. So I think it's very important because also I think all of our countries have the same problem, youth unemployment. In Albania right now is kind of 40%. 40 is too huge. Sorry, 14%.
You're great if you're 40. We are more 50.
14% people from 15 years old to 60 years old. This is the level, but the youth unemployment is higher, is bigger. So I think we have the same problem in whole countries. How to make these people, these young people, engaged in entrepreneurship, innovation. But I think we have also some same initiatives recently in the country, in Albania. Startup companies, some finances from abroad, of course.
I wanted, in that term, I wanted to ask Mr. Talevski, what are the opportunities you see now in improving matching skills and opportunities for the young people, and also improving or implementing policies which would help out with?
Just to comment on what was said about the regional cooperation. So that's I think, very important issue, and that's one of the main ideas of why we created this UC regional platform. The first thing is not only to create partnership between CSOs which are working in the region, but also to create a platform where, for example, practitioners will get together and learn from each other. So it's a sharing experience, best practice, and also sharing know-how. When I say practitioners, I mean the startups, social impact hubs, business accelerators, business incubators. So we try to connect all of them, and not only to get to know each other, but to learn from their experience and maybe expand their market in the region. So that's one thing. The second thing is that we learn from each other and import the good things. For example, on the basis of positive example from Macedonia, about the street magazine as a social business. So in the last couple of months, this street magazine was started in Montenegro as a good practice imported from Macedonia. So we learn from each other, we share the best practice, and we also try to use best examples from European Union, where in the fields of social innovation, because social innovation in Macedonia doesn't mean that you should invent some hot water to implement it in Albania or in Serbia. So maybe by transferring this in the local context, in the community needs, it is an innovation in that community. So in that way we can learn from each other and also build on this.
Do you have any concrete example of such an innovation which is present in?
Share after.
Yeah, for example, this street magazine is one of the
face-to-face. It's called.
Yeah,
yes.
It's called Lice v Lice here, or face to face. In Montenegro, it's called Portun, the first street magazine where marginalized, unemployed groups are actually selling the street magazine and get employed and are economically independent by joining this program. So that is the way where we can provide opportunities, as you mentioned, for the young people in the local context to be activated, to join some program, and to grab the opportunities that we are providing as a service for them. And another important thing is that, as Jovan mentioned, the government cannot be expert for everything. So the expertise is also on the side of a civil society organization by providing soft skills training, by providing work readiness training, and increasing the employability of youth, which is really important, because if you don't have the right skills and competencies, you are not competitive on the labor market. And this gap between the formal education and transition to the job market is really important, that we as providers of non-formal education increase the skills in order for you to have better opportunities on the labor market.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the positive example.
That he mentioned the opportunity. I'm very proud to mention this example, that our story, entrepreneurial, the Kosovo entrepreneurial story and the Greek entrepreneurial story, after one project that we made, now it's the case study for in American universities. It's studied there as a case study, and also.
And what did you do? What was the project about?
I will mention it. Also, it was mentioned on TED. TED Speaks. Do you know
The TED,
TED speaker? Yes, in Los Angeles, and in a book which is mentioning about how the ecosystems, entrepreneurial ecosystems in transitioning economies are developing. So our stories get there. How? Through networking and through making the good practices from one country to another. We were me and my colleagues. We were watching on a Coursera online course, massive open online course, and we were seeing how in Cleveland, in Ohio, in States, how the community there, the public sector, the NGO sector, the citizen sector, the business sector, education, they made programs and they made a strategy for the next 20 years, how to reduce the brain drain and how the taxes from the youth initiatives and creative businesses to stay in the country. And when we were watching that, we were so inspired, like, oh, let's tell to all our people and let's do this. But when we were telling to the people, they were like, no, it's in the States, it will not work here. And we said, okay, how we can transfer that knowledge to our people? And we said, okay, we will not focus on what is missing in our society as an ecosystem for entrepreneurs, but we will focus on the assets, what we have and what needs to be done in order all these mechanisms that we have to support entrepreneurs, how to be in collision, how to be in a strategic partnership, let's say, in order to work for the needs of the young people or for the people who needs information or support in order to establish their businesses. So we said, okay, let's map it and let's put it in an online course. So we made an online course, massive open online course that was speaking about, for example, what the education sector is doing, what the public sector is doing, what the civil sector is doing. We had successful entrepreneurs that give in examples of that, and that was broadcasted also on the TV, regional TV Terra, which is in Pelagonia region and elsewhere. And that example, which had a great impact all in Macedonia, that all the people that we interviewed after, they said, after this, we have a different opinion about entrepreneurship and a different opinion that I have a alliance where I can knock on the door and get support or get information. The one that you're mentioning, that how those support need to be communicated. So we made it innovatively to open online course. And after we didn't get here, we have let's say partners in Kosovo, in Đakovica. There is a innovation center in Đakovica. They made the same example as Ohio, as Macedonia. They made as well there, Greece as well. And now that we are seeing the stories, we learn from each other. Also, it has initiative to be in Venezuela, in Philippines, in Germany, I think also. So you see one initiative that one community somewhere in America made something, inspired all the world how to focus on their ecosystem, how to develop it. And we are not, let's say, stopped here. We are, let's say, exploring possibilities how to develop more. So, yeah, we make, let's say, meetings, we make conferences, we make TED Talks also to see how one open online course can inspire more people to be included in order to build our ecosystems, because every living thing, right, needs a certain ecosystem in order to develop.
Yes.
Also the businesses, also the young people.
But when you're talking about all the programs you are involved or the initiatives you are aware of, I have the feeling that there is not a problem at all with the youth unemployment because of the lack of jobs on the market, but because of the lack of potential, of knowledge. What is the problem? I would like to know from you, because you're human resources expert.
Yes, coming from the other side on the labor market, it's actually a really good question. It's a complete mismatch. For example, no qualified workers are in such a huge demand all the time, which is a general policy of a country, of a certain country, not to produce them anymore. You know what I mean? By the communistic system that we had, it was really important. We had this great number of 90 to 100% people knowing, people can read and write in our region. There's lots of countries around in the world that 20% of people can read and write, for example. For us, it's completely the opposite. So now in this new development, where either very skilled people are needed, and the rest of it should be non-qualified workforce, but the education is still driving young people towards the middle.
So what's the Macedonia situation?
Macedonia's labor market is like this. Non-qualified people are, the pool is almost empty all the time. Sometimes the salaries that are offered to them are higher than, I don't know, mid-management would earn. For example, a farm, beef farm, startup, it's a startup business, a beef farm, they struggle so much of finding people that would just keep the cows off the roads. That's all they need to do, and they will receive 300 euros salary, which is almost towards the average. And it will be more than what you would be paid in a public sector, mid-management as well. So, for example, where I work at the moment, it's a duty-free shop. It's still a retail company. Lucky me, I work at our shops are at the airport, so I don't struggle with finding workers as salespeople. But the other retail companies, they struggle a lot to find good qualified person that can sell. They're not only there to take the salary. They really can sell.
So how to solve this problem? Because the unemployment rate among the youth, you mentioned it before, in Macedonia particularly, is 40%?
More than 50.
More than 50.
I really can't go deep in that deep in those numbers. I generally look always the general unemployment rate or what I have on the labor market, because I only know that the curve goes down, which is really important. It never went up. So starting point was some 30 something general, and it goes slowly down, but it goes down.
So what's the current?
Sorry?
The current situation here?
I have some numbers. I would say 22.6 July 2007. This is information from Trade Economics.
17 or 7?
17, yes. And for example, they have a prediction that in 2020 for Macedonia it will be 16.5% unemployment rate, which is amazing. But the ratio, taking up how it goes down, the way they've calculated it.
So what is going on here that the ratio is going down?
For example, since I'm with Auto Duty Free, I've employed 10 people. So for the next year, I can tell you 5 or 6 more people definitely will come in, which means maybe 10 it will happen, and it will grow and grow. Previous company where I worked always expands and goes and develops. So the mismatch, it's really important. What government asks skilled people, what do we need to do to meet expectation of the
labor market? That's the same problem, in Albania.
It's the basic. I don't know. It's simple solution, but I don't think so. Neither us as people, as our parents especially, when they force us to go towards some path, because let's face it, when we're 15, 16, we cannot decide really what we want to do. These days, youth people, trust me, they will find a job in IT sector easily. Why? They look so much YouTube tutorials, but we can't find electricians, tradies. Those kind of people will be missing. So this is my honestly message to HR practitioners, to parents, to everyone. Don't push the kids to go to university if they're really not up to. If you can see the potential is that they understand how is this built, just send them 3-4 years high school, vocational education, they can do it, and let them earn their living. Don't push
well,
them.
family is definitely one of the most important.
And that's mutual. I would say, for this
institutions
region,
here.
the
This is
influence.
Same problem in Albania. 70% of the students of this year went for law school, but we don't need so many lawyers.
Exactly.
Where are they going to go after 4 years? That's the big problem.
Well,
Instead, we need
take
professionals.
Who should take care of the quotas problem of, I mean, somehow bringing this problem of mismatching of professions down? Because
Nobody can. I'm sorry. Nobody can forbid any student to choose
yes.
which degree he wants to study about. I think families first. Yeah. People should take a look on professions that are needed and the labor market. I mean, why so many economists and so many lawyers when the market right now needs much more different professions? We've been having bad experiences with foreign companies who came to invest in the country, opened factories, and they couldn't find experts or technicians in special, let's say, fields.
And we sell it as a cheap force, and they can't find the force.
Yeah,
it's
and
funny.
some of them they said we gotta close because we can't find technicians, because it happened after the fall of communism. In these 27 years, everything was kind of old factories were ruined, and old professions kind of died. And we have a lot of lawyers which are unemployed right now, or people who just graduated from law school or economics but are unemployed, or they go for, let's say, I know a lot of young people who go call centers, call centers, or
burn out completely,
or waiters.
Yes,
they end up as waiters.
Yes.
Because we need much more professions. Is the same, but this is not. I think this is not only a government thing. I think is everybody should take.
No, now it's actually about the private sector. For example, Auto Duty Free, what they did, they open up a retail academy. So now, even if you have a law degree, which is okay, you're 32, you can show up and say, I would like to be part of this training, or your training, it doesn't matter. In a year, they can be retrained easily and send them on the labor market, just send them off. So there is a solution. And just please don't wait the government to do it. The money is still in the business sector. Let's be obvious. Even the government goes to the private sector. The NGOs goes to the private sector. So I'm saying to them, instead of waiting for either you approach non-government, for example, entity and say, we need this program from you to make it for us. Or why don't you open up a training center? And I'm saying to my colleagues from the HR departments, I'm saying now is the time for HR really to step up and start making money. Because HR is spending money, okay? But now we can really start making money. We can train outside people, external employees. We can sell, because we really know what is needed on the market. The trainings that we're gonna deliver to them, they will be so specific, so hands-on, so spot on, that no way those people would not be able to find a job. Or at least by coming to your training, to whatever your training is, they say, oh, that's a good thing you did, so I know what you've learned over there, you've learned time management, you've learned special skills that we need, that loyalty, things like that are needed these days. It's not that much complicated.
Sounds very easy, but then how much aware are people that this kind of opportunities really exist?
What we are speaking here is a labor market, right? And market, what is in a market? Supply and demand, right? And if, for example, the educational programs and let's say competency programs are there on the market, if we don't have, someone from States or from Britain will come and give to us. But if there is demand for that kind of programs, I think the most of the problem is the lack of motivation of people to be reskilled and to gain that competences. Why? Because one salary of a salesperson in a public sector, in a private sector in the Balkans, 300, 400, 500 euros, right? For that job, we need to get out of our comfort zone, to develop more and more, to invest in yourself too much, right? And the same salary you have in the public sector, in the public administration, the same salary with nothing to do, just to show
On time.
on time
In
on
the office, yeah.
Sometimes even not
so,
showing.
so there is a distortion, and all the public sector employment which are creating by our governments, I think is make distortions in education sector, in the companies that really wants to make something, really, in the build the competences of people, and also in the motivation of people. So I'm also working with companies that we are hiring staff or training staff, and it's very hard to retain those people in the companies. Why? Because they will enter, for example, as a maybe perfume seller, or maybe seller in some stores, or maybe administration somewhere in some store. But the first, let's say, opportunity to work in the public sector, they step out from the private sector. Why? Because they have a diploma, everyone has a diploma now, and they think that it will be more valued, and the motivation is to go somewhere where the comfort zone is greater. So we need to work on the motivation of the people, that we need to make people that will create something, not just to use everything which is already on
But
the
I would
market.
say as well skilled. You know,
Yeah,
our
that's
education, they're really not that well skilled for the private sector, and that's the truth. The public sector, they don't feel comfortable delivering what they were taught.
That's what I
Honestly.
say, because every job when I entering needs to profiling me, right? To
Yes,
make me competent
yes,
of something,
yeah.
to be perfect in something. But in the public sector, there is in one office maybe one or two people are great, let's say. The others are lucky. I mean, sorry that I'm speaking this.
They're
I don't want
lucky.
to.
The others are just
they-
lucky.
Yeah, they
Ariana,
don't want,
Lucy?
but
I don't think the private sector allows people who are not skilled, because private sector is different. But what is demotivating young people also, at least in Albania? I don't want to give just bad examples, but this is something we should take a look when we talk about employment. It's very important. Is that apart from the reason he mentioned, it is also people say, for the same job I do in Tirana or in Albania, I get paid at least three times higher if I go to Germany, at 3 times or 4 times higher if I go to Germany. So I go there, I work there for just 2 or 3 months, and I have the whole income I earn here in a job for the whole year. So this is something we should take into consideration. Higher salaries in the private sector would motivate people to go in the private sector, and
that's not easy, of course. I mean, the private sector cannot say, okay, I
isn't
will
that
give
generous?
you. Yeah.
Just another dimension which was not mentioned. Apart from the mismatch of education and labor market needs, we also examined the problem of student practice or student practical experience while studying. So this system has a lot of difficulties.
0 almost, yes?
Yes. So every student is obliged to do a 1 month practical work, but they actually do not engage in that student practical work, and they are just collecting signatures from the
region-wide
private sector.
or in Macedonia?
In Macedonia particularly, but also this is a case also in the other countries. So what we need is a new form of student practice, which means that after the formal education, student will be equipped and skilled to be a lawyer or to be an economist or to have a different profession, because and this practical work should be implemented inside the curricula of the universities. So this is also one field that we have to push and advocate for redesign of student practical work, to extend the period to 3 months or to 6 months, and also students to receive some small stipend while doing the practical
kind
work.
Kind of internship.
In order to get these practical skills, to see what is the working place, to see what is the teamwork, to see what the job is meaning. So after finishing high school, to be or university, to be more competitive on the labor market and to enter immediately after the studies, not to be in danger of this long-term unemployment where you will forget what you've learned on university and you will accept that as a
Whatever
fact,
it comes,
and
yeah.
your motivation is also going down.
That is why some private universities in Albania have signed agreements with big companies, so they can, during the years of study, they send the students to kind of get experience in these companies with the promise they are gonna hire at least half of them, or the best of them, which is practically is very good.
You just pick a bit point of my suggestions. Please, if you're really push on the other door as well. For example, you push on private companies' door and say you're above 50 employees. You're going to open up 3 internships this year, and you have to have it. And you have to have it for 6 months, for example. So it has to be a quota on the private companies, because there's nothing more important than internship. I've started my career as an intern somewhere. Open up not 1 door, 100 doors for me, because we all know, we say in Macedonia, whatever country, we say you need a network so you can get employed. And I said to kids these days, go and find your network. You don't don't need your parents anymore. Create it. I've created for myself. I'm coming from a small town. I came here. I found an employment. I was abroad. I came back from abroad, and guess who employed me? My partner in the project from NGO. Because he opened up a big business called Unix. They export fresh fruit and vegetables. They're growing year by year. They needed a nature practitioner, and it was 100% certain for me. I was here on 20th of May. I was hired in just 25 days. They were actually waiting for me to come. So I tell to people, do not wait to this opportunity to be created. But I've learned that while being an intern somewhere. No other way I could have learned. I used to be a waitress, and you meet people, you have bosses, good ones, bad ones. You learn, you skill, you grow emotionally as well, not just qualification and capabilities. So please knock on private sector door. Alkaloid, I know, they decided, they have CSR, corporate social responsibility, money put aside. So these days it's not anymore, I'm giving money for the pandas in Asia. Okay, you really need to make an impact locally. So they decided maybe they're going to do, they will open up and do something with some NGOs. I'm not sure if it happens. The only positive example I can maybe give in Macedonia would be Pivara, Ade. Brewery, yes.
Okay.
Coca-Cola, Skopsko,
yes.
Very long tradition. So what they did, they've opened up completely. They have a big school. It really produces skilled workforce, not just for them. It really produces workforce for the region. Every year, what they did, they job shift. They do a big job rotation. In the board management, I know they have almost every second year new people from abroad. So it's really important, regional cooperation, what they do. As a positive example for us can be Germany. What you need to do? They have dual and apprenticeship. Dual. You have to do 2 of them. High school, not university. In high school. So I think 3 months out of 9 months they have to be hands-on in job. And that's how they did it. So we have an example. We just need to copy. We don't have to be the smartest people ever. We just need to copy, honestly.
How important is this positive message for people, that there are opportunities? You just need to move on. Maybe you need to low down your expectations at the beginning. How does it work with the people when they hear, after a year of unemployment, such a message? Do they believe it?
Personally,
what happens with a person?
Sorry, I'm talking too much, but personally, my experience, if I stay to them like this, nothing doesn't work. But if I put a YouTube tutorial, definitely it will work.
Yes. I think what I've seen lately in Tirana, so especially in the last year, a new experience of motivating people. They are also calling people from abroad, which are international speakers, people who motivate. And apparently people love it and get kind of inspired, let's say. And it has become like a trend. And people...
So do people need coaching simply?
Of course. I always think
people
need coach and inspiration.
And support also.
Of course.
And that's it? And hold on.
Oh, no, it's...
done?
But if somebody supports you, if somebody inspires you, I think talent and gift is within everybody of us. On different fields, maybe. He knows better to write and I know better how to speak, but it doesn't matter. The thing is, we have everybody is gifted with something. Everybody can learn, because nobody, I mean, we were all born naked, right? So, but I think at least the experience is showing people really need motivation and inspiration. Or let's shake them a little. And this has proven very effective in some parts of the sectors, employment sectors.
Yes, if every single successful professional would take only one person to guide it through the career, and then 5 to 6 years they need guidance. After that, they can rock it by themselves. And it's very hard to do for your kid, I know. So take another kid, please do. Take it under your hands, like we say, and just lead him 5 or 6 years, and they will rock it. That's all we need to do. And there's lots of positive examples in Macedonia. You have a successful career, I have a successful. Only one person you need to have an impact on, and it will spread around. That's the way you think globally, you act locally. And
would you agree with that? Because you are dealing professional with the youth, unemployed one, which is a special category.
Yeah, personal positive examples are really great, but also we need to look to have this the bigger picture. So a lot of money should be invested. A lot of
how much?
Governmental
what does
support.
It mean a lot of money?
And also not just respect, but creating a really a partnership between all the sectors, the private sector, the governmental sector, and the civil society organization. So if we are best at giving trainings, so let's delegate the task. Let's make a task division. Who is best at what he is doing? So let us be, we are working on the field directly with young people. So in the cabinets, people that are writing these strategies, that they do not have this direct effect with the target group. So let's involve them in the creation of the policies and the measures. And also about the money, it needs a dedication to support all these processes by allocating funds in order for these trainings to be delivered, but also these new companies that should be created, they need support in the first period. So united effort of all stakeholders is the key, and we will have more positive examples like you mentioned.
Yeah. My opinion is that now we are all complaining that a lot of people are going abroad, which is really true, and we lose that human capital, that brain drain. But on, let's say, long-term effect, we don't know what will be the results. I know, and we see some positive examples that people, it's better to go somewhere to see the difference, to make experience, to make some money, let's say, to
learn
make some
new
networks,
skills, yeah.
to learn something, and they will decide if they want to have low qualified job in Western Europe, for example, for lower salary there, or they will want to come and to make something
to invest in
our country. We have a lot of examples like that. And another thing is now the World Bank has made one report specially focused on learning, and it's called "Let's Make Promises for Learning." So how? They are focusing, or let's say that report is said how to make the schools work for learners, right? And how to make systems work for learning. Not just produce like a hyper production of universities and schools and programs and whatever, but how to make those systems work for the learning. So I was inspired by that report, and I think that in the future we also need to focus on that, on quality education, and how to build competencies in our youth, not only for the young people, but also from kids, from disadvantaged people, for old people, for women, or from rural areas, from which sector, but to focus on what really needs on the market, not just the paper that needs the market.
Just one sentence. You have to stimulate those people who went abroad to come back in the country.
Of course,
you have to stimulate them to come back. You have to make some policies. There was one in Albania a few years ago. For every Albanian coming back in the country to invest, they had some relaxation of tax. I don't know, for example, for 1 year not to pay anything. I mean, these are the policies we need. So it's good. He has been in Germany. The guy has been in Germany for 10 years. He learned a lot of things. He can invest in the country. But he should be stimulated to come back in the country.
Yeah, Ireland is the example. They rocket the economy, taking in the
after the
Ireland
global crisis in 2008.
That's why I mentioned it, because I know that these debates are more to brainstorm, right, and to say what is our experience, and maybe to tackle that kind of subject. So one of our let's say potential of human capital, it's outside of our country. So we also don't need to forget those people.
No, they are a huge potential, I think.
This is also a message to the government, honestly. They are doing strategies, same like for the business sector, it's really important to listen to your customers. So we are their customers, so they should listen to us in a sense of what we expect of them. When you're driving a car, the governments can enforce a speed limit to you. But then we know the streets. We know where the police is not standing. We know which road is best, that you can speed up from 50 to 70 and things like that. We know those are mutual expectations that we build, and the other drivers from the other side, he knows that the car that it will come with 70 kilometers per hour driving. And no matter how much speed limits the government will put, that's why I'm saying, no matter the policy, really the people will find a way to tickle, to twinkle, to entwine and do things. So, very positive example, for example, using that way of behavior, it can be drawn from Australia. They always go with the flow of people. It's amazing. They don't go against, they just use their habits to put it in the system, for example. So I'm asking our governments, see what we want to do. Parents are pushing kids towards this way, and things like that. Use it some way. Find a way to really make something out of it.
So it looks like the solution is among the others in flexibility, but what I could hear from you, is that the problem looks like a huge, but in fact it can be solved in a very easy way if we just synchronize different powers and we just synchronize the possibilities we are
talking about 20 million people, so I would say
it's not a huge number if you compare it to other regions in the world. We are so small.
Private sector, for me, it's a huge play, and they really need to show up and stand up for what they can do. We as people, we need to push more to the private companies to give more back to the society, honestly. Not just our salaries, increase our salaries. They can really do much more than do at the moment. So that's why we need to push parents, for example. In our schools, we have parents' boards.
Of course, everywhere.
They can even in public schools bring a company. They can do training to the kids, Private companies, they can, I don't know, for example, Germany, it's big on savings, yes? What they do, banks representatives are coming in the first grade and they explain what savings. How you can do business. And
we are doing the same.
Yes.
Bank representatives going to the schools and learn the kids how to save money.
Yes. So that's my message. Honestly, I see the private sector as the key player here.
And it's getting more and more involved with the years. So hopefully next decade will be very successful for the region. Thank you so much. This was third in a row, Balkanica. Best greetings from Skopje. Thank you so much.